Self-preservation, here's something nobody tells you. Every decision you make every single day is filtered through one single biological priority. Stay alive. Self-preservation is not a choice. It's the deepest instruction in your nervous system. Your brain is running a constant threat assessment in the background, scanning your environment, your body, your social situation, all at once, all the time, without you asking it to. When something registers as a threat, the response is instant, heart rate up, muscles tensed, attention narrows to the problem. The rest of the world goes quiet. The problem is that system was calibrated for a world that no longer exists. Your brain treats a tense email from your boss with the same biological urgency as a predator in the grass. The response is identical. The threat is not. That's why stress is so physically destructive. Your body is designed to survive short, intense threats, then recover. Modern life gives it low-grade threats that never fully resolve. The alarm stays on, and that sustained activation costs you. Self-preservation kept your ancestors alive. In 2026, it's also the reason your shoulders never fully relax. Fear response. You don't decide to be afraid. Fear decides for you, and it does it faster than conscious thought is even possible. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, processes threat signals before your prefrontal cortex has any idea what's happening. By the time you consciously register danger, your body has already responded. Adrenaline is in your bloodstream. Your heart rate has spiked. Your muscles have tensed. All of that happened in under 200 milliseconds. Fight, flight, or freeze. Your brain picks one automatically based on the threat type and your previous experiences. Fight if escape seems impossible. Flight if escape is viable. Freeze if neither option is clear, because stillness has historically meant invisibility. Here's the trap, though. That system doesn't distinguish well between real physical threats and social or psychological ones. Public speaking triggers the same fear cascade as an actual emergency. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference. It just sees threat, and it fires. The fear response kept every single one of your ancestors alive long enough to reproduce. Every person alive today is the descendant of someone who was very, very good at being scared. Hunger and thirst drive. You think you eat when you're hungry. You don't. You eat when a cascade of hormones, blood sugar signals, and neural cues hits a specific threshold, and your brain decides it's time. Ghrelin rises when your stomach is empty, sending a clear signal upward. Leptin falls when fat stores are low, telling your brain resources are depleting. Blood glucose drops, and suddenly concentration becomes difficult, mood drops, and food becomes the only thing you can think about. That's not weakness. That's a system that was designed to be impossible to ignore. Thirst operates on a similar principle, but with less tolerance for delay. You can survive weeks without food. Without water, you have days. So your brain treats thirst signals more urgently and more insistently than hunger, escalating quickly until the problem is solved. Here's what makes this complicated in the modern world. Your hunger system was calibrated for scarcity. It was never designed for an environment where extremely calorie-dense food is available within arm's reach at all times. The drive to eat when food is available, even when you don't need it, was a survival advantage for most of human history. Now it's a liability. Sex and reproduction drive. Evolution has exactly one goal: pass on genes. Everything else is in service of that. The sex drive is the mechanism. And it's not subtle about it. Your brain releases dopamine in anticipation, which is the same reward chemical triggered by food, social connection, and in some cases, addictive substances. The system is designed to feel compelling because historically, anything less compelling didn't survive long enough to pass itself on. Testosterone drives it in both men and women, though at very different levels. It responds to social cues, physical appearance, status signals, and emotional connection depending on the individual and context. The triggers are partly biological and partly learned. Here's the thing most people don't think about. The reproduction drive doesn't care about your conscious plans. It's not interested in whether you want children, whether the timing is good, or whether you've thought it through. It just generates motivation. What you do with that motivation is the only part you actually control. The entire advertising industry knows this, which is why so much of it is built on exactly this system. Sex and reproduction drive don't just influence biology, They influence purchasing decisions, social hierarchies, and career ambitions, often without you noticing. Parental protection. The moment a parent perceives a threat to their child, something fundamental changes in their threat response system. Studies have documented that parents, particularly mothers in the hours after birth, show significantly altered amygdala response to infant stimuli. The brain literally reorganizes its threat priorities. The child's safety moves to the top of the hierarchy above the parent's own. This is not sentimentality, it's biology. A parent who would hesitate to defend their offspring would produce fewer surviving descendants than one who would not hesitate at all. So over millions of years, the ones who responded to threats against their children with immediate disproportionate force survived at higher rates. The result is a protective instinct that can override pain, exhaustion, fear, and rational risk assessment. Parents have lifted cars off trapped children, run into burning buildings, fought off animals twice their size. What's interesting is that this instinct can also extend beyond biological offspring. Adoptive parents show the same neural responses. The brain doesn't require genetic connection, it requires attachment. Once that bond forms, the protection instinct activates just the same. Social belonging. Humans are not built to be alone. That's not a preference. It's a biological requirement. For almost all of human history, exclusion from the group meant death. You couldn't hunt large prey alone. You couldn't defend against predators alone. You couldn't survive harsh winters alone. Being part of a tribe was survival. Being cast out was a death sentence. Your brain still treats social rejection like a physical threat. Neuroimaging studies have shown that social exclusion activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Being left out actually hurts, in a neurologically meaningful sense. This is why loneliness is so physically damaging. Chronic loneliness raises cortisol, disrupts sleep, impairs immune function, and is associated with significantly higher mortality rates. The body interprets sustained social isolation as a dangerous situation and responds accordingly. It's also why social rejection is one of the most powerful motivators of human behavior. People will change their opinions, suppress their personality, and make choices that are genuinely against their interests, just to maintain group belonging. The instinct is that strong. Evolution never prepared us for a world where you could be technically surrounded by people and still completely socially isolated. Status seeking. Nobody wants to admit they care about status. Everyone acts like they do. Status seeking is one of the most consistent patterns across every human society ever documented. Rank within a group determines access to resources, mates, protection, and cooperation. Higher status means better outcomes across almost every measurable dimension. Your brain tracks relative social position continuously. Winning a competition, receiving public recognition, or moving up a hierarchy releases dopamine. Being outranked, publicly humiliated, or passed over for promotion triggers a stress response. These reactions happen automatically before you have time to decide how you feel about it. This is why money, titles, luxury goods, and follower counts all tap into the same underlying drive. They're not the goal, they're signals of status. Your brain responds to the signal. The trap in modern life is that status hierarchies are now infinite and globally visible. You're no longer competing for rank within a village of 150 people. You're being constantly exposed to the most successful, attractive, and accomplished people on Earth via social media. The comparison mechanism that evolved to help you navigate a small group now has access to billions of data points. It was never designed for that scale. Territoriality. You feel it when someone sits at your usual spot, when someone parks in front of your house, when a new coworker starts using your equipment without asking. That low-level irritation is territorialism, and it runs far deeper than you'd expect. Claiming and defending space and resources is a near-universal animal behavior, and humans are not the exception. The drive to establish what is mine and protect it from encroachment is wired in. It's visible in children as young as 18 months, long before any cultural instruction about ownership. Research shows that people consistently overvalue objects they own compared to identical objects they don't. The moment something becomes yours, your brain reclassifies it. Losing it feels worse than never having it. Economists call this the endowment effect. Evolutionarily, it makes sense. Defending resources you already have is more reliable than trying to acquire new ones. This also explains why property disputes are so emotionally charged. Even minor territorial encroachments produce disproportionate responses. Your brain is not calibrating the actual value of what's at stake. It's registering a violation of a boundary, and that triggers a defense response regardless of the stakes. Curiosity and exploration. Your brain rewards you for finding things out, not for acting on them, not for using them, just for finding them out. Curiosity triggers dopamine release. The anticipation of new information activates your reward system in the same way food or social connection does. This is why you click on headlines you don't really need to read, why you check your phone constantly without expecting anything important. The seeking itself is the reward. This drive evolved because information was survival. Knowing which plants were safe, where water sources were, what predators were nearby, and what other groups were doing all had direct survival value. The individuals who were motivated to explore and investigate their environment accumulated more useful knowledge and survived at higher rates. Here's where it gets interesting. The same mechanism that once pushed humans to explore new territories now drives the entire attention economy. Social media platforms, news feeds, and recommendation algorithms are all built around this specific instinct. Every scroll is a small exploration. Every notification is a small discovery. The curiosity drive doesn't know it's being engineered. You're not addicted to your phone. You're running an ancient exploration instinct in a digital environment that was specifically designed to exploit it. Disgust avoidance. Disgust is the instinct that kept your ancestors from eating things that would kill them. The facial expression is universal across cultures: a wrinkled nose, raised lip, narrowed eyes. Darwin documented it. Infants show it. It appears in every human society studied. That consistency is a strong signal that it's not learned. It's built in. The original function was contamination avoidance. Rotting meat, feces, infected wounds, spoiled food. Disgust pulls you away from things that are likely to carry pathogens before you have time to think about it. Here's what makes disgust unusual as an instinct. It expanded far beyond its original purpose. Humans apply disgust responses to moral violations, social transgressions, and outgroup members in ways that have nothing to do with actual contamination. Corruption, betrayal, and cruelty all triggered genuine disgust responses. The brain borrowed the pathogen avoidance system and repurposed it for social regulation. This has significant consequences for politics and morality. Research consistently shows that people with stronger disgust sensitivity tend toward more conservative moral frameworks, prioritizing purity and tradition. Disgust isn't just a gut reaction. In many cases, it's actually shaping moral judgment. Reciprocity and fairness. Humans are the only species that will accept a personal cost to punish a stranger for being unfair. In an economic game called the ultimatum game, one person receives money and can offer any portion to a stranger. The stranger can accept or reject the offer. If they reject, neither person gets anything. Rationally, you should accept any offer above zero. Something is better than nothing. People consistently reject offers they consider unfair, even though rejection costs them real money. They would rather get nothing than let someone else benefit from an unfair split. This behavior has been documented across dozens of cultures. Reciprocity and fairness instincts evolved because cooperative groups outcompeted non-cooperative ones. For cooperation to work, cheaters had to be punished, and because you couldn't always rely on someone else to punish them, individuals developed a personal drive to enforce fairness, even at personal cost. That's why freeloaders, rule breakers, and people who cut in line produce such a strong emotional reaction. It's not just annoyance. Your brain is detecting a threat to the cooperative system that your survival depends on and generating motivation to do something about it. Pattern detection. Your brain was built to find patterns. It is so good at this that it finds patterns that don't exist. This is called apophenia, and it's not a malfunction. It's the expected output of a system that was calibrated for one specific type of error. Missing a real pattern, like not noticing the shape of a predator in tall grass, could get you killed. Seeing a false pattern, like mistaking a shadow for a predator, just costs you a brief moment of unnecessary alarm. The asymmetry of those two errors produced a brain that is systematically biased toward detection over accuracy. Better to see 1,000 false threats than miss one real one. This is why you see faces in clouds, hear your name in background noise, and find meaning in random sequences of events. It's why conspiracy theories are so compelling. The pattern detection system sees connections and generates a satisfying sense of understanding, regardless of whether those connections are real. It's also why first impressions are so sticky. Your brain assembles a pattern from limited information and then filters subsequent data through it, confirming the original read rather than updating it. You're not seeing the person, you're seeing your pattern. Imitation and mimicry. You are copying the people around you constantly, mostly without realizing it. Humans have mirror neurons, cells that activate both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing it. This is the neurological basis for empathy, learning, and social synchronization. You don't just observe other people, you simulate them internally. Imitation is the fastest learning mechanism available. Rather than trial and error from scratch, you can watch someone who already knows how to do something and acquire the skill in a fraction of the time. For early humans, this was the primary way knowledge transferred across generations. But the mimicry goes deeper than skills. You adopt the speech patterns, postures, opinions, and emotional states of the people around you automatically and largely unconsciously. Studies show that people mirror the body language of conversation partners within seconds. That mirroring builds rapport and trust. It's why people feel comfortable around others who are similar to them. Here's the thing. This means your beliefs, values, and preferences are far less original than you think. The environment you grew up in, the social groups you belong to, and the media you consume are all constantly shaping what you think is your genuine perspective. Most of it is just very convincing mimicry. Novelty seeking. New things are inherently interesting to you. That's not a personality trait, it's dopamine. The brain releases dopamine in response to novelty, not just in response to rewards. New environments, new information, new faces, new experiences all trigger a small hit of the reward signal. The system evolved to push you toward exploration because exploring your environment produced survival advantages. People vary significantly in how strongly this drive operates. High novelty seekers are more likely to travel, change careers, try new substances, take financial risks, and pursue diverse social experiences. The same trait that predicts adventurousness also predicts impulsivity and risk-taking. Modern life has figured out exactly how to exploit this. Variable reward systems, where the outcome is uncertain and occasionally positive, produce compulsive engagement. Slot machines work this way, so do social media feeds, dating apps, online shopping, and most streaming platforms. You keep scrolling not because you expect to find something great, you keep scrolling because you might. The novelty system can't distinguish between genuine exploration and manufactured unpredictability. Novelty seeking kept your ancestors moving, exploring, and adapting. In a world specifically engineered to trigger it continuously, it's the thing making it difficult to finish reading the sentence without checking your phone. Energy conservation. Your brain's default setting is to avoid unnecessary effort. This is not a character flaw, it's one of your oldest and most reliable survival instincts. For the overwhelming majority of human history, calories were scarce and unpredictable. Wasting energy on unnecessary activity was genuinely costly. The individuals who rested when they could, avoided pointless effort, and conserved physical resources for when they were actually needed, survived more reliably than those who didn't. That drive is still active. Your brain will consistently choose the path of least resistance, unless there is a compelling reason to do otherwise. It will look for shortcuts, delay difficult tasks, and resist sustained effort in ways that feel like laziness, but are actually just the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. This is why motivation is so unreliable as a long-term strategy. Motivation is generated by the same system that also wants to conserve energy. It will show up inconsistently and disappear when effort becomes sustained. Here's the trap. You are now living in the highest calorie, lowest physical demand environment in human history. The conservation instinct is fully intact. The scarcity that justified it is gone. The result is an ancient drive to rest and avoid effort, operating in a world where the consequences of following it are obesity, cognitive decline, and a shorter life. The instinct never got the update, only you can override it.